The Borderlands series is undoubtedly a titan of the looter shooter genre, whereas Borderlands 2 has easily become one of my favorite games of all time. And I've even greatly enjoyed 3, the pre-sequel, and some of Tina's Wonderland. Yet for some reason, I still haven't gone back and challenged Borderlands 1. Well, that's just gonna have to change. But it really just can't be that simple. You see, in Borderlands 1, revolvers are their own weapon type, and that actually makes me all kinds of happy to hear. So I gotta ask myself, can I beat Borderlands 1 for the first time using only revolvers? And just like that, I was on that faded bus with the sexiest arms dealer on Pandora, making my way to Firestone, where I saw that Mordecai had the preferred weapons of revolvers, and I knew he was my man.
Ah, get off my bus.
Stepping off the bus for the first time, I got a big whiff of that original Pandora air, and I was feeling nothing but optimism.
Welcome to Firestone. I am CL4P.
Oh lord, here we go again. I quickly dropped the random guns that they gave me and reluctantly began to follow Claptrap. Having already played Borderlands 2, you know I had to jump up here to check if this chest was here, where I was hoping to find a revolver, but alas, no luck. Now, bear in mind that past that chest, I know very, very little about this game. So while making Mordecai all green, for the simple fact that I love green, I made the decision that I would allow myself to melee enemies and use my action skill until I found a revolver. After having my ears blown out by an early rendition of Mad Max Fury Road, I sliced my way through the first few bandits of the game with their stormtrooper aim, and was once again disappointed by the red chest. So naturally, I jumped up here to see if this chest was here, and it wasn't, so I took out my anger on the locals. After which, I finally met my first likable NPC of Dr. Zed.
Oh, the poor little robot needs our help. Would you kindly give him a hand?
You know, I would really rather not, but because I know what happens to you in the future, we'll call it even. And then at the behest of Dr. Zed, I very skillfully took out a bunch of skags and bandits. So it was finally time to meet TK Baja.
You? One more step and it'll be your last. You should have seen the look on your face.
Oh, you. But it was really cool to see him alive. And the first thing he asked me to do was to go pick up some food out of the dirt. I mean, Jesus, man, surely we can do better than that. But I don't really judge. So Marcus asked me to go buy a grenade mod, and that's when I first got a good glimpse of a freaking weapons machine. I was so excited to potentially see a revolver here. Still no revolver. After that was done, Baja finally sent me on my first real quest to kill Nine Toes, which I assume is the Captain Flint of this game. And part of that quest was to find a gun stash. I thought maybe I'd have a good chance at a revolver here. But instead of a revolver, I actually found the ladyfinger, which I thought was really cool. And it was here that I started noticing that the melee-only strategy was becoming quite difficult. But on the bright side, I did level up and get Bloodwing. Huh? He has what? So I isolated Digit and gave him high fives until he died. And then I had to do the same thing to Pinky. And then I died to old Three Balls over here a few times. But before long, I became a master of the duck in and out behind this pillar over and over, hitting him a few times until he dies fighting style, of which he then stood no chance. This is a revolver only challenge, right? Told Baja that old Nine Toes now has 0 balls. And then I unlocked the bounty board, which come to find out was actually a really big part of this game. And I don't care if Moxie is your mom, Scooter. We do not tolerate Moxie slander here. Next up was to kill this guy named Bonehead, to get back some part that Scooter needed for the catcher ride. Yeah, I was way too underleveled for this. So I grabbed a bunch of side quests and went to level up. Grabbed some weird data recorders and once again whiffed on a red chest for a revolver. Tried to kill Scar, which went about as well as you could imagine. So instead, I picked a bunch of flowers. Still wasn't good enough though, just couldn't get any damage in. So I sat on this toilet hoping to get some kind of idea. And I actually tried to lure these skags in here to kill them, but they died just as fast as I did. This whole time I was checking the machines, by the way. And after having searched nearly every nook and cranny that was available to me, I began to question if revolvers even existed. So I looked it up, and it turns out you can't even get one until you get to a place called Sledge's Stronghold. Since I couldn't get one, and I wanted to progress, I decided I would just kill Bonehead using a sniper. I know it wasn't ideal, but I was out of options, and I didn't know enough about the game to really make any better decisions. So anyways, moving on. Made Scooter a little angry by jumping over Pisswash Gully, and grabbed the mine gate key to go to the next area, where I very quickly realized this was going to be a pain, but was still able to make my way to the stronghold, where I realized I was going to have to go level up. Which in doing so, I got to see some pretty cool side quests, like hearing from Tannis for the first time, and desperately wailing against enemies until I leveled up. Where at level 11, I was able to spec into the saving grace of this run, Lethal Strike, which boosts my overall melee damage and also gives me a very strong random hit. But unfortunately, I was still just shy of being able to get through the stronghold. Yet, I was able to find my first revolver, but it was level 13 and I was still a measly level 11. So with a clear goal in mind and the help of Lethal Strike, I went to get those last 2 levels, where I decided it was time for some sweet revenge versus Scar, and fought gladiator style in the local arena. But still having such a huge XP deficit, I had to get a little creative with how I got it. So I ran over a bunch of Rakks with my car, and this was probably a lot cooler to me than it really was. Until finally, I leaped into level 13 threshold and equipped a revolver. This truly felt like a defining moment, almost like I was pulling the Master Sword out for the first time. And after all the suffering that I had gone through, I was filled with an intense bloodlust, killing anything and everything just because it was actually fun. Which eventually led to the Juice Skag brothers Marley and Mo, who dropped this masher, which would unironically be the best drop of the playthrough. Even though it was only 3 shots, it was an absolute house of a gun, and I just tore through the stronghold. Which eventually led me to this big ol' psycho, who was swiftly defeated after running around these little midgets like it was a round of zombies. After what felt like an eternity, I grabbed the mine gate key and finally started making progress in the game. When I used said key to gain access to the headstone mine, using my newfound power to shred through the bandits that were trying so desperately to stop me, and was faced with a decision that I was confident would alter the outcome of the upcoming fight. Alright, if you say so. Going into the Sledge fight, I was pretty excited because I already knew this guy existed from the future games. But the fight kind of ended up being a glorified NASCAR race, but with guns, I guess. Until finally, Sledge got so pissed off, he just started slamming his hammer into the ground over and over, giving me a pretty free kill. I was quite surprised to see that the Iridian artifact we were looking for ended up being a piece of the vault key. Pretty freaking cool if you ask me. But with the key in my back pocket, I was told that it was finally time to head to New Haven. But before I could leave the area, I simply had to make a pit stop and set things right with old Bonehead. So with that nasty bit of revenge taken care of, I talked to the green version of Claptrap and was given access to the Doll Headlands, where Scooter immediately gave me the task of clearing out his friend Lucky's outpost, which was absolutely crawling with psychos, where I found the man himself locked up in his own office, with a cell that was for some reason filled with several toilets and a dartboard, who then gave me the task of getting the fast travel system back up. And what the hell are these things? So after flipping some switches and killing some face crawlers, I had to kill 8 vehicles for some reason because naturally that's just the most fun quest ever, you know, I mean look at this. And of course the guy behind all these godforsaken vehicles is driving around the wasteland in a pedal van. But with those small nightmares behind me, I was able to walk through the gates of New Haven. It was really cool to see this place before Wilhelm came and destroyed it. And Jack was right on the money about Pierce. She really does look like she headbutted a belt sander. And after turning on various power sources for New Haven, Tannis called and said that she wanted my piece of the vault key. We're on the way to her, I realized that my beloved masher was beginning to fall off some, and made sure to keep an eye out for more going forward. I don't know if this is a hot take or not, but I like these spider ants way better than the ones in Borderlands 2. I ran inside Tannis' hut, desperately trying to not die to the Rakks, tossed her my piece of the vault key, and went to meet everybody's favorite crackhead, Crazy Earl, who of course sent me off to get some bottles of booze by killing people. Can't say I blame him, I mean hey, free booze, but 24 bottles? Mans is fighting demons in that hut. But of course, he was lying about what we needed. This guy named Krom stabbed him twice and took it. It can just never be that simple, can it? Saw some pretty cool looking side quests that I want to do, one of which was to kill Mothrak. I had all this set up for lighting torches and stuff, but was no joke one of the lamest bosses I've ever seen in my life. The thing died in like 3 shots. But it did whiz out, which made it mildly amusing. And to whoever it was that programmed Claptrap to tell you about every single mission bounty board, there's a special place for you. I collected even more echoes about Tannis and her initial journeys on Pandora, where at this point I was amassing quite the little collection of revolvers to choose from, leading me to the side quest where I killed this little guy named King Wee Wee, where not only was it an amusing little side quest, but he dropped this nice unique shield that would allow me to regen health, one that I would pretty much use for the rest of the game. Made one last pit stop where I sat behind this barricade and killed the guy named Reaver, when I finally made it to Krom, who immediately gained my support, and I would have easily joined him had it been an option. Krom actually had a really unique fight. You had to fight your way up this hill with him shooting at you with a turret constantly. But unfortunately for him, I found a spot where I could just play reverse whack-a-mole with him and made short work of him. Where behind his corpse, I grabbed the stolen piece and went about my business. After which I promptly chucked it in Tannis' face and lowered this big old bridge that had been blocking the way, leading me to a sibling feud where I killed one brother for the other. I mean, sure, why not? Who then tried to set up a trap for me, and well, you know. Who immediately took over the exact same place that I had just killed his brother, whom I promptly sent to go work things out with his brother in the afterlife. People like that just never learn, do they? Going into the Trash Coast, Angel continually warned me that I was about to face some insane challenge, the hardest one yet, and not to give up. And while I was approaching the fight, I was actually starting to believe her. I had no clue what was ahead of me, but based on the sounds I were hearing, she may not be lying. I mean, come on, listen to this. Does that not sound like something terrifyingly huge? Oh, it's just one of these Rakk hives. Pretty sure I killed one named Roscoe in the Scarlet DLC. I might have been like a little bit scared if they hadn't designed the arena to where I could just stand here and lay into it. I mean, even the Rakks weren't a threat. I mean, honestly, they were a blessing. They'd fly to me and drop me ammo to keep laying into the hive itself. But just behind it was the final piece of the vault key, and it was laying in this really cool design cave. Maybe it was just me, but I thought this place was awesome. But with that little speed bump behind me, I headed over to Tannis and went to the next location to save a Claptrap of all things. Ugh. So I entered the very cleverly named Old Haven and fought through the Crimson Lance for the first time, before finally I begrudgingly let out the annoying little guy out of his cage, who promptly sent me to get another piece of the vault key from Baron Flint of all people. You know, the brother of Captain Flint. I shredded my way through his lackeys up on the mining rig before finally coming before the man himself, who apparently, much like his brother Captain, loves sitting on a high seat before coming down to fight. Must be a Flint thing. Which the fight itself was not really all that difficult. But he did drop his shotgun, the boomstick, which shot freaking rockets. Really made me wish I was doing a shotgun challenge. But when I went to go grab the last piece of the key, I was kindly informed by Commandant Steele that Tannis had betrayed us, and that she was cutting off our cell phone plans. Not very nice. So in an effort to avoid withdrawal, I went cave diving for a back door into the Atlas base before coming to the Three Stooges mini-boss, which was surprisingly not that easy. But like all before him, McCloud here eventually fell to the power of my revolvers. Now well within the Atlas base, I was shooting my way through the various grunts who were unfortunate enough to be in my way when I stumbled upon a beautiful scene. I mean, just look at how many there are. Where at some point, Tannis had gotten in contact with us, saying that she didn't actually betray us, when I finally found her locked up, who then told me how we'd get our cell phones back. All's forgiven. Starting off with finding the main console, where I found out that I had to go back and turn on 3 different switches to get it working. And I really don't understand the logic of Atlas. How can you see things like this and still think it's a good idea to keep going? The switches 1 and 2 were easy enough, I really just had to shoot through some random grunts. But for the third one, I had to cross Hell's Bridge. I mean, what the is this? But I got it done, and it was back to the main console. And now having Cell Signal again, it was off to find Commandant Steel for the final quest of the game, where I found that it really never gets old seeing these Iridian designs. They always make me feel like I'm about to fight something really cool or find something really cool. Leading me to the final stretch of fights for the game, an all-out brawl between Guardians, the Crimson Lance, and myself. I thought this whole area was really cool. It really felt like a battlefield and was really refreshing that everything wasn't just trying to kill me. But just before I entered the final area where the vault was, I was kind of struggling to kill things, so I figured it was time to go try to find a new gun or something. And after doing several different side quests, none of which were that interesting or bared any fruit, I came upon this quest, where I killed Queen Tarantea and King Arakob, whose quest reward gave me the unique Atlas revolver, Patton. May God have mercy upon my enemies, because I won't. Jesus Christ, that is some raw red text. This has to be exactly what I need. But with the Patton in hand, it was finally time.
You have failed to listen to Commandant Steele. I've warned you time and again, yet you persist on ignoring my orders. The contents of the vault are rightfully the property of the Atlas Corporation. But you, you belong to me. Yes, the key works. Sergeant, get your team ready to go inside.
I thought that cutscene was really cool. It made me feel like the destroyer was truly a threat as it just smoked a siren. But in reality, it was more like a glorified target range, just shooting various crit spots over and over and over. So the fight pretty much went like this. I'd shoot something to proc Gunslinger, giving me increased damage and fire rate, and just dump the Patton into its eyeball, which was supremely effective all the way up until the end when I was dangerously low on ammo, finally taking out the destroyer. All in all, I was really happy that I revisited where it all started. It was a lot of fun. And even though I knew some key points because I'd already played the sequels, it was still awesome to see it happen firsthand. And even though I didn't see any cool legendary revolvers until the very end, yes, you can beat the game using only revolvers. If you made it this far, thanks for sticking around, and always, I'm open for criticism and suggestions going forward. Good luck out there.